Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It's fantastic you are here. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video from 1981 Eurovision Song winners Bucks Fizz. And through the song they won with, Making Your Mind Up, we talked about that very thing, going with our gut and making our mind up, because our brain needs to set free to embrace the new. So trust you enjoyed that one. Well, we're going from there to a bunch of guys that were formed in Boston, Massachusetts in 1969. We had Tom Scholz, and this was pretty much the creative vehicle for him. Brad Delp on vocals. We also had Barry Goodrow on guitar. Some other people, Fran Sheehan and Gary Phil. There have been quite a few people in this band. And the band we're talking about is Boston. Very much just adopted their city of formation as their band name. It just seemed to stick. I think it was the producers of their first album that thought, yep, that works. And although they were formed in 1969, they didn't release their first album until 1976. And between 1976 and 2013, they released 6 studio albums, 2 compilation albums, 16 singles, and there's been some gaps in there. 1978 to 1986 was a bit of a gap, and 1994 to 2002, there's also been a bit of a gap there. I think there's been some contractual issues, and Tom Scholz is also a bit of a perfectionist, and he releases albums when he's good and ready, and when he is comfortable to do so. So, given 1969, these guys have been around for 45 plus years, so very good indeed. It's estimated these guys have sold 75 million albums, so this guy makes them very, very successful in the hard rock genre, which these guys actually are. We're talking pelting guitars and pelting drums and piercing vocals and awesome harmonies and all the rest of the stuff that you need to fill an arena and give your audience just the best time ever. There's elements of progressive rock in here, and as I've already mentioned, their harmonies are pretty good, and Brad Delp vocals at the start were pretty incredible for these guys as well. VH1 ranked these guys the 63rd best hard rock band in the world. So there we go. Boston certainly have forged their way through their hard rock genius and Tom Scholz's creativity into the music world, that is for sure. Now, as I said, in 1976, the first album came out. Now, we can't talk about Boston and not talk about this album. And we can't talk about Boston and not talk about the debut single that came off this particular album. So the 1976 album was just simply named Boston, so it was a self-titled album. And this sold 17 million copies. So a very, very successful debut album. Now, when we talk about Boston, there's one song we need to talk about in particular, and that's just the song More Than a Feeling. This was certainly the first song that I met Boston through. I must admit, I probably didn't hear this song for the first time until it was in the 80s. And I started to realise, wow, this song really just stands out a bit. We've got incredible vocals by Brad in this particular song, and the lead guitar just holding that note for as long as they do is pretty amazing, and just the whole riff that's going on underneath. The whole thing is just an awesome classic hard rock song, that is for sure. Now, when I was looking at these lyrics and trying to work out what the song was about, obviously More Than a Feeling gives a bit of a hint, as we're talking about something more than feeling here. It's almost a conviction, something that's embedded deep inside the songwriter. And one of the lines, I watched Marianne walking away. I think this song might be about regret. But I'm thinking this is probably where we're going to go today with this particular song. Provides the opportunity to talk to you about this thing called regret. You know, those moments when we look back and think, oh man, I wish I'd taken that opportunity. Oh man, I wish I'd chased that girl a bit more. Oh man, I wish I'd done that deal. I wish I'd bought that house. I wish I'd bought this car, or why did I buy that car for? It's been a bit of a lemon. All these things we think about, oh, why did I make such a stupid decision like that? And we look back in our life and think, oh man, I've got to live with this thing, this regret for the rest of our lives, for the rest of my life. And you know, it comes back from time to time. It comes back to haunt you. Think, oh yeah, that's right, there was that thing, wasn't there? Yeah. Oh gee, what if I'd done that differently? How differently could my life would be? It's almost like that regret thing has shaped your life somehow. Well, there's probably an element of truth in that, I would think, but it's also another thing to say is that regrets will happen. You know, we don't know everything there is to know about life at the time we make decisions. We just make decisions based on what we know at the time. And we think, yeah, that kind of works. That seems to be a good thing. And we just go with it. If anything, we can say, at least you made a decision. Celebrate the fact that you made a decision. Even though it probably didn't turn out to be the best, you still made a decision. And then we think, well, we made the decision, Trev, and it just sucked, really. Well, instead of looking at it in terms of the fact that it sucked, well, let's face it, it did. No. Say, for instance, you drove past a house and it was a steal of a lifetime at the time. You thought, oh, and you didn't put the offer down, and now the house is worth 3 times as much, and you're kicking yourself for not taking the offer. You nearly signed on the dotted line, and something just held you back and said, nah, I'm not going to sign it. Or you did sign up for, say, a car, and the car ended up being a lemon. Well, I think what we need to do with regret moments is, instead of thinking, oh, if only, see them as learning experiences. Because as I've shared already, we make decisions based on what we know at the time. I mean, it's always easy to go into back in hindsight and say, yeah, that wasn't the best of decisions. But you know, at the time, with what we know about ourselves and the way that we think and operate and the experience we've had in life, we make the decision thinking this is the right thing. We almost make it in good faith for ourselves, and we just hope it is the right one. And if it wasn't the right one, well, we look back and think, okay, now what would I have done differently back then? How could I have made the decision differently? And think, well, yeah, okay, I know that for next time. I think in all of the hard things that happen in our lives, we've really got to take some good out of it, and there's what can we learn from the experience that will get us to do it different next time. Otherwise, the regret becomes overwhelming. Our life becomes very much about what if, or if only, and that sort of stuff, instead of, okay, I learnt from that and I'm going to move on from it. I'm going to just put that down as one of those things, but what can I learn for the next time? Because you know what, even though there may not be the specific situation and instance, we make decisions every day of our lives. Some of them are small ones, some of them are big ones, and we use our life experience that informs how we make decisions in the future. I'm sure as Tom, when he was writing More Than a Feeling and thinking about this last Marianne, was thinking, oh man, I wish she hadn't gone, really. Just feel a bit about that. But it's more than a feeling, actually. This is actually a deep down yuckiness about the whole thing. It's a bit more like a conviction, a pointing finger back at himself saying, that was a sucky decision, mate. Why did you do it? Well, the thing is, Tom, I suppose you were able to write this awesome rock song because of your experience. This is more than a rock song, Tom. This is actually a legendary rock song, this one. You created an absolute masterpiece when you wrote this song, and 17 million copies sold. It's got to tell you something about how good bad things can turn into good. So well done for writing the song, Tom, and if you're watching, I trust you're doing well. So yeah, and for the rest of us, if we do make a bad decision, let's not dwell on it too much. Think, oh, okay, made that decision. If there are consequences, deal with those consequences the best you can. Work your way through them. But don't let it overtake the future that you might have. Don't let it rob your future. Let it inform your future going forward. And then this more than a feeling can grow into a conviction of how good decisions can be made in the future. So I trust that will all be an encouragement for you today. If you are facing a regret moment right now, like it might have only happened a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, you're thinking, oh man, I really stuffed up with that thing. Well, this is your opportunity right now. Yes, dwell on it a little bit because we need to own it. But think, okay, I'm going to give myself another couple of weeks to dwell on it, and then I've got to come up with some kind of ritual to put it into my learning experience, whether I go down the beach and chuck a rock in the water, or I do something to mark the end of the regret period. Because I think regret needs to have an end point to it so that we can move on. That is for sure. With whatever it is, if it is a massive regret, you still need to put the regret side of it to bed. Well, I trust that will all be an encouragement for you today. Well, on to the clips, and we do have more than a feeling. Now, I thought, given the significance of this song, I thought I would grab 2 copies. We've got a live version of this one, and we've also actually it's live/official. This one, it's only one version of this song, I should say. It's a live/official, so the official clip was basically them playing this song live, and so that one's there for you. The next album that came out after the self-titled album was Don't Look Back. Now, this came out in 1978, so relatively quick in the Boston scheme of things. Now the world was absolutely just hanging out for this new album to come out, and Tom thought, yep, let's get it out there. The record company was really hanging to get it out there, and this particular album sold 7 million copies. And Don't Look Back is a little bit like More Than a Feeling. Don't look back too much, because we need to look forward. Look at our learning experiences and don't look back. That's a live version of that one, and this really typifies the harmonies, the musicianship, the rockiness, the arena, the whole thing. That's why I picked that one. Don't Look Back. And then I've also got, going back to the self-titled album from 1976, Rock and Roll Band. Now, this is also one of the Boston classics, and in thinking this is a bit of a retrospective of where they've been from 1969 to 1976, and thinking, wow, it took us a while to get here, but man, we're here now, and we've got this awesome album, and we've got a record deal and all the rest. How cool is it to have success finally? I mean, it took them 7 years to get an album out. That's a long time in the scheme of things, and good on you, Tom and the guys, for just sticking with it and seeing where this band Boston would go. So the clips and links for those 3 songs are in the description below. And by the way, even though these guys are completely at the opposite end of the spectrum to Boston, Boston being hard rock and Bucks Fizz being pop, well and truly pop, squeaky clean pop. If you want to go and recap back on my video on Bucks Fizz, that one, the link to that one there is there as well. Well, that's it for today. If you have come back for another video, really, really great for you to do so. If this is your first time to Life Reflections Through Music, welcome to the channel. And thank you to everybody who has hung around to the end. We love that kind of engagement, and I trust you found today a bit of an encouragement for you. Just a bit of a plug that if you would like to make a request, please note just chuck it in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to look at it for you. Well, that's it for today. Next time we're going to go on into the Great Australian Songbook with the group Daddy Cool. And of course, when you talk about Daddy Cool, you've got to talk about Eagle Rock. As we begin the D's in this particular series. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.